are going to go through that season where we think we're walking with God. Then before you know it, it seems like my faith is wavering. Seems like my faith is beginning to shake a little bit. And so I got to ask myself, am I a keeper? Am I a keeper? All right, am I a keeper? So why this series, Pastor? Why this series? What made you want to do this series? Well, the aim of this series is to highlight that faith is not only about how we begin, but learning to persevere through every season of life. All right? It's not about how we begin, but it's about, watch this word, learning to persevere through every season of life. Many people have enough faith to start, but struggle to continue. All right. We have enough faith to start, but we struggle to continue. So when people see us as hypocrites, no, we're really students. All right. We're not hypocrites. We're students because we're learning how to keep doing what we started doing. All right. We started praying. We start to believe. We start serving. We start giving. We start trusting. We start walking with God. All right. But here's the but. But when the answer is delayed, like Miss Wilma said, when the answer is delayed, or the opposition increases, or the excitement fades, or the circumstances become difficult, here it is. Can we keep pushing and keep believing? All right. Because that's why you see it in church a lot of times. Church is good. People are excited. People join. They get baptized. They go through new member orientation, but they don't keep coming. All right. The excitement fades. Can you keep coming? You believe God can fix it. You believe God could fix it, but he hadn't fixed it yet. So the answer is delayed. Can you keep waiting? Can you keep trusting? You got a good report last time. You got a good report the next time. You got a good report this time. And then all of a sudden, this bad report comes. The circumstances have become difficult. Can you keep pushing? Can you keep believing? And most people, I've discovered that most people have enough faith to come, but the real challenge is having enough faith to keep going. We know how to come to church, come to the altar, come and ask God for what we need, come believing that he can fix it. Coming is not the issue for believers. Scripture is filled with people who started and didn't finish. Those Israelites believed that he can get them out of Egypt, but they did not believe that he can keep them until they walked into the promised land. And that's where a lot of people are. They came to Jesus and we sang songs. I came to Jesus as I was. I was weary, wounded, and sad. And I found in him a resting place. But in that resting place, there's going to be a struggle. All right. While you're resting, be prepared to struggle because many believers start, they come, but they do not finish. They do not keep trusting, keep believing, keep praying, keep serving, keep giving, keep walking, because coming is a decision. I decided to follow Christ. I decided to give my heart to Christ. I decided to join the church. Coming is a decision. Keeping requires discipline. And I'll be the first to raise my hand. It takes discipline to keep walking with God. It takes discipline to keep trusting that even when the circumstances change, even when the answer is delayed, it takes discipline to keep holding on. All right. So coming is a decision. Keeping requires discipline. Coming gets you in the door. All right. God's got a blessing with my name on it. So I come to Jesus. Coming gets you in the door, but keeping is what gets you to the promise. And many people have walked into the door, they're standing in the hallway, and they're saying, when will I get my blessing? And you got to understand, you got to learn how to keep trusting, keep believing, keep walking, keep serving until you get what God promised. And so this series will teach us that keeping is a kingdom principle. A lot of people come to church, and they think just because they come to church, all of their problems going to be left behind. If I just come to church and I come to the altar and I give the preacher my hand and I give God my heart, then I can put it on cruise control until my number is called to go to heaven. All right. But you got to understand that keeping is a kingdom principle. All right. You can come and be a member, but you got to be a disciple. You got to have discipline to keep coming, keep believing until you get what God promised. All right. So why this series, Pastor? Why this series? Here it is. We must learn to keep believing when the circumstances contradict the promise. Somebody told me weeping may endure for a night, but joy is coming in the morning. And somebody on here can testify. You've been sleeping a whole lot of nights and don't seem like that joy has come yet. And it seems like what God promised is contradictory to these circumstances. You say, by his stripes you heal. By his stripes you've been healed, but you don't see the healing yet. So the question is, can you keep believing when the circumstances contradict the promise? Here's another one. Can you keep praying when heaven appears silent? Somebody knows what it's like to keep praying, and God is not saying anything. All right. Keep going when the journey becomes difficult. All right. Keep the faith when life attempts to make us turn away from God. As Miss Greta said, there are some life experiences that will make you question whether you're following God or have you turned away. And there are some moments, there are some seasons, as the young people say, when life starts lifing, where you just want to say, is it really worth serving God? So can you keep going? Can you keep praying? Can you keep believing? Can you keep the faith when the circumstances change? All right. So keeping does not mean that we never become tired. It does not mean you don't get discouraged. It does not mean you don't get disappointed. It does not mean you're not afraid. It means that none of those emotions are allowed to make the final decision concerning our faith. Oh, I'm talking to somebody already tonight because you've become emotional because you're tired of waiting on God. You're tired of being by yourself. You're tired. You're discouraged. You're disappointed because every time you make one step, it seems like something knocks you back. Every time you pay this bill off, something else breaks. It seems like you're ready to get this new job and then that job is getting on your nerves and it just seems like one thing after the next. And so your emotions are all over the place. But here's what keeping does. Keeping says, I'm not going to allow how I feel to make the final decision about my faith. I came to Jesus trusting that he can believe, so I got to keep on trusting even when the answer is delayed. All right? And here's my shout. A keeper may be wounded, but refuses to give up on what God has promised. I'm talking to somebody tonight. You know that you're a keeper because you're wounded, but you still worship. You're wounded, but you still help other people. You're wounded, but you still serve. You're wounded, but you still trust because you refuse to give up on what God has promised. And somebody can testify, you made up your mind a while back that even though people hurt me, I refuse to quit coming to the place where I get fed. All right. And so this series is designed to move believers, not the world. I'm talking to believers tonight. I want to move believers from temporary inspiration to spiritual endurance. And somebody can testify when you leave church on Sunday, man, the word is so good, man. And you just, oh, I'm excited. I'm on fire. And then by the time you get to work Monday or by the time you get home Sunday night or by the time you make the work Tuesday, all that inspiration is gone. So you need to move from temporary inspiration to spiritual endurance. That's why I teach like I teach, because I don't want you to feel good. I want you to maintain your walk. All right. So this whole series is going to be designed to move believers from temporary inspiration. In other words, I don't want you to just shout. I want you to be able to endure. All right. And here's what this series is going to do. It's going to challenge us, not y'all. It's going to challenge us to become people who do not abandon our faith when life becomes difficult, but we remain committed, consistent, and confident. Here's the key word: until God completes what he has begun. And that word until, in the Greek, it means until. In the Hebrew, it means until. All right. You got to remain committed. You got to remain consistent. You got to remain confident until God completes what he has begun. And that's why Philippians 1:6 said, he that began a good work, watch this, is going to see it to completion. All right. And so that means if God has something for you, then he's going to make sure that he brings you to that completion. All right. Watch this. That means he's going to give you more tests to grow you in those areas of weakness. So by the end of this series, my desire is that every believer should be able to declare, I'm not just a starter, I'm a finisher. I'm not a quitter, I'm a keeper. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep praying. I'm going to keep believing. I'm going to keep the faith. I'm going to keep waiting. I'm going to keep watching. I'm going to keep doing what God has called me to do until I get what God promised. All right. So the first part of the series we're going to look at tonight, and a lot of it's going to sound familiar because I want to pick up on where I started on Sunday. Tonight, we want to talk about keep believing. Keep believing. Mark chapter 5, verse 22 through 24. We talked about it on Sunday. It says, then a leader of the local synagogue whose name was Jairus arrived. When he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet, pleading fervently with him, my little daughter is dying. Please come and lay your hands on her, heal her so she can live. Jesus went with him, and all the people followed, crowding around him. All right. So let me pause right here. When you just read Mark chapter 5, verse 22 through 24, when you read just those verses, a leader of the local synagogue came. His name was Jairus, and he arrived. When he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet. My daughter is dying. Please come and lay hands on her, heal her so she can live. Jesus went with him, and all the people followed, crowding around him. When you just read that, when you just hear that, what comes to mind just reading that passage? Watch this. While he was still speaking to her, messengers arrived from the home of Jairus, the leader of the synagogue. They told him, your daughter is dead. There's no use troubling the teacher now. But Jesus overheard them and said to Jairus, do not be afraid. Just have faith. Do y'all see that? The enemy says, okay, you're expecting something to happen. You're expecting your daughter to live. You got faith that Jesus can fix it. You got faith in his power. So let me put a word in your ear. It's over. It's over. So now watch this. Here's a challenge. Are you still expecting him to do something even though they said it's dead? All right. Are you still expecting him to do something even though it looks as bad as it could get? So here's the thing. He had enough faith to come, and the enemy's not going to let him just come and get his breakthrough. You got to fight for it. You got to keep believing, keep trusting, keep hoping. And that's where somebody is right there. You're just like Jairus. You expecting God to open a door. You expecting God to help you get out of debt. You expecting God to bless your business. You expecting God to heal your broken heart. You expecting God to help your child. You expecting all of these things to happen. So my response tonight is know that the enemy is going to attack you in your area of coming. All right. If you coming expecting, if you coming believing, he's going to attack you in that area. All right. So here's where we want to jump in. What do you do when you come to Jesus believing, but something happens that seems to contradict what you believed? Oh, Lord have mercy. You came to him just like Jairus. You went on your knees and you prayed and you believed that God's going to fix it. You believed that God's going to heal it. You believed that God's going to work it out. But something happens that seems to contradict what you believe. And here it is. Most believers come believing that Jesus can do something about our situation. But the challenge is not always coming. The challenge is keeping. Can you keep believing when the answer is delayed? Can you keep believing when somebody else receives their miracle while you're waiting on yours? That's one of the hardest things to do in church. Is you're praying for something, and then that Sunday somebody said, "Pastor, can I give a testimony? I was waiting on God, and God opened the door, and I got a new job." And you sitting there with your saved self, and you hearing somebody testify about what God is doing in their life. So here's the thing: can you keep believing when somebody else receives their miracle while you're still waiting on yours? Can you keep believing when the report changes? Can you keep believing when the people around you tell you that it's over? Can you keep believing when what you see does not look like what God says? Jairus had enough faith to come to Jesus, but before Jesus reached Jairus' house, the report came, "Your daughter is dead." Why trouble the teacher any further? So now here's the challenge. Jairus now faced a different kind of faith test. And here's what I want to drive home tonight. He already demonstrated coming faith, but now he needed continuing and keeping faith. And somebody that might have opened the door of opportunity for you right there, because you thought that just praying, just coming to Jesus, just bringing the need and dropping it at his feet, you thought that was enough. But Jesus says, no. You understand from school, you don't just come and take one test. There are multiple tests. There may be a midterm. There may be a final. There may be a pop quiz. And the same way in the classroom is the same way in life. Okay, you passed that test, Jairus. You came to me and demonstrated you have some faith. But now I need you to demonstrate that you have continuing or keeping faith. So Jesus looked at Jairus. He looked at Jairus and essentially said, "You believe me enough to come. Now keep believing while we head to the house." And that's where somebody is right there. That's where someone is right there tonight. You have enough faith to bring it to Christ. You got enough faith to bring it to him. But now the next challenge is, can you keep coming? Watch this. Can you keep believing through the delays? All right, here's the first thing I want to talk about tonight. Can you keep believing through the delays? Notice what the text says. A leader of the local synagogue whose name was Jairus arrived. When he saw Jesus, he fell at his feet, pleading fervently with him. "My little daughter is dying," he said. "Please come and lay your hands on her. Heal her so she can live." Jesus went with him, and the people followed and crowded around him. Mark introduced Jairus as one of the rulers of the synagogue. He had status, he had influence, he had authority, and he had respect. As a ruler of the synagogue, he would have been responsible for helping oversee the affairs of the synagogue, organizing worship, maintaining order, and selecting those who participated in the service. He was accustomed to being the person others approached when they needed assistance. So here's the first test. He had position, he had a title, he had influence, he had connections, but he also had a problem that his position could not solve. His daughter was dying. Let me speak a word to somebody that's trying to climb the corporate ladder. Even when you get the position you've been praying for, even when you get the title, even when you get the influence, even when you've made all these connections in your network, God has some problems with your name on it that your position, your influence, your title can't get. He's going to make sure you stay at his feet. You can either come voluntarily or he has a problem with your name on it. And so even though Jairus had all of this, he was a ruler of the synagogue. And like Miss Val said, it took a lot for him just to lay down his title and come to Jesus. He had to humble himself. And that might be why we keep going through what we're going through, is because we're chasing after titles and positions and influence and networking so that we can get all of these things. And Jesus is saying, I got a way to get you back at my feet. All right. And so watch this. He creates a need. He creates a need to get Jairus out of the synagogue and get him to the feet of Jesus. Ah, Lord have mercy. Jairus had authority in the synagogue, but he had no authority over the sickness attacking his daughter. He could manage the synagogue, but he could not manage this crisis. And that's somebody's word tonight, is just understand. Just understand that it's nothing wrong with having titles, nothing wrong with having position, nothing wrong with having influence, but make sure that don't replace your need for Jesus. Because you're a great manager in the office, but somebody knows what it's like to have a crisis that only Jesus can fix. All right. And so this is why we must give Jairus credit. He had enough faith to come. Some people with his position would have never come. They would have continually tried to fix it themselves. And they have too much status to be falling at somebody's feet. All right. So what does Jesus do? Here's the shout. So there is an arranged or allowed situation, watch this, to test his faith. When was the last time your faith was tested, Reverend? When was the last time your faith was tested, Deacon? When was the last time your faith was tested, ministry leader? And God says, I see you shouting, I see you praising, I see you logging on the Bible study, so let me see where your faith is. So God will allow or arrange a situation to test your faith. And watch this. I had enough faith to come. Watch this. I had enough faith to come. The test would be, would he have enough faith to keep? Keep what, Pastor? Keep waiting, keep walking, keep believing, and keep trusting. So when we look at Jairus, so the first thing we see is Jesus arranges a situation in his house to get him out of his house, get him out of his synagogue, and get him back at Jesus' feet. So here's the question. What does Jesus have to do to get you back at his feet? What kind of situation does he have to arrange or allow to get you back at his feet? Not in church, not in the choir stand, but what kind of situation, United States, does he have to get us back at his feet? All right. So the leader of the local synagogue is at Jesus' feet. All right. So as Miss Natola said, there's a connection between his coming and his believing. All right. The person who comes to God must believe that God exists and that God is able, and that God responds to those who diligently seek him. Jairus came, watch this, because he believed. And the only reason you keep going to God is because you believe he's got the power to do something about it. And as Miss Greta said, enough disappointments will make you start to doubt, can he really fix this one? At one point, you believe he can do anything. At one point, you believe he was able to do exceedingly. At some point, you believe that. And that's where Jairus was. Jairus had enough faith to believe that Jesus' presence could change the atmosphere in his house. He believed that one touch from Jesus could reverse his daughter's condition. He believed that sickness was destroying, Jesus had the power to restore. He believed that although his daughter was near death, she was not beyond the reach of Christ. Have you ever been there where you believed there was nothing impossible for God? Do you remember that time where you believed that God could do all things? Something happened that made you stop believing like you used to. So this series is designed to give you that keeping kind of faith. All right. This is where faith begins. Faith begins by believing that Jesus can. I believe that Jesus can give us the resources to build a church debt free. I believe that. I believe that Jesus can. That's where my faith begins. But when we get a bad report, I got to keep believing in the same God that I believed at first. And that's where this series is going to challenge our faith, because Hebrews 11:6 says, without faith, it's impossible to please him. For he who comes to God must believe that he is. Mark 9:23. If you can believe, all things are possible to him who believes. Matthew 21:22. And whatever things you ask in prayer, believing, you will receive. I like all three of those. I like those because if I come, that lets God know that I believe he can. If I come to him, that lets him know that I believe that he can. Oh, that's the shouting part. That's the shouting part. When Jairus comes, he comes because he believed Jesus can fix it. And watch this, Mr. White. Watch this. Jesus is on his way to Jairus' house. I like that. I come to Jesus and we ready to fix it. Oh, we ready to fix it. We're heading to the house and we're ready to fix it. And then verse 30 says, Jesus realized at once that healing power had gone from him. So he turned around in the crowd and asked, who touched my robe? His disciples said to him, look at this crowd pressing around you. How can you ask who touched me? But he kept on looking around to see who had done it. Then the frightened woman, trembling at the realization of what had happened to her, came and fell at his feet and told him what she had done. And he said to her, daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace. Your suffering is over. Put yourself in Jairus' shoes. Put yourself in Jairus' shoes. We're on our way to the house. My daughter, 12 years old, is dying. She's at the point of death. And Jesus looking around in a crowd of people. Who touched me? Who touched me? Who touched me? And the Bible says in verse 32, he kept on looking around. Now put yourself in Jairus' shoes. Okay, Jesus, somebody touch you. Okay, what's the big deal? Let's move. Let's move because we're on a time schedule. Because in order for me to get the healing I need, we got to make it there in a certain time. Lord have mercy. I'm talking to somebody there tonight. You telling Jesus, come on now. I gotta do this before I turn 40. Come on, Jesus, I gotta do this. These bills piling up. Come on, Jesus, I gotta do this. And that's where Jairus was. He's sitting there, but here's the challenge of the text. The faith that brought Jairus to Jesus would eventually have to become that faith that kept Jairus with Jesus. Oh, Lord have mercy. It's one thing to believe when you first come. It's another thing to keep believing when Jesus does not move as quickly as you expected. If you can't say amen, just say ouch. Because you know what it's like to come to Jesus at first. You know what it's like when that problem first came, when that job opening first came, and you said, Lord, I want to get this job. And you prayed. But it's another thing to keep believing when Jesus does not move as quickly, watch this, as you expected. Because let's be honest, all of us got a timeline. God, I need you to fix this before the end of the year because I'm going into next year debt free. I need you to fix this. I need you to fix this before this week. I need you to fix this. It's August the 5th right now. I need this done by the end of August. I need this done before we go back to school. It's one thing to believe while your daughter is sick, but it's another thing to keep believing after she has died. Because we believe God can fix it, but we don't believe God can raise it back up. Oh, Lord, have mercy. It's one thing to have the kind of faith that believe he can show up, Mary and Martha. He can show up, and when he don't show up, if you'd have been here, Jesus, if you'd have been here, if you wouldn't have let me say I do, if you'd have done this, if you would have done this. But Jesus is saying to us tonight, I don't work on your timetable. And here's what he says to us through Jairus. Jairus had enough faith to begin the journey, but Jesus was about to develop him in the kind of faith that could endure the journey. And that's where somebody is tonight. The reason why you're in that place now is because he's trying to develop in you the kind of faith that can endure the journey. Watch this. Your need may bring you to Jesus, but your faith must keep you with Jesus. All right? Your need brings you to Jesus, but your faith must keep you with Jesus. Why is that important, Pastor? Because once my need is met, if my faith is not developed, I'll turn around and go back because I got what I needed. But Jesus says, I need to develop your faith that even when I meet your need, you still keep coming. You still stay at my feet. And somebody can testify, once he answered the prayer last time, once he opened the door last time, You didn't pray like you used to. You didn't come like you used to. And I keep telling you, that's one of the reasons why God can't bless us like he wants to. Because the last time he blessed you, you went golfing, you went on vacation for a month, you did all this stuff, and he says, okay, let me see what I can do to get you back at my feet. Woo, Lord have mercy. So Jairus, like many of us, had enough faith to bring Jesus into the situation, but now he had to learn how to trust Jesus when he did not move according to his schedule. So that's where many believers are tonight. I'm talking to people that are on this call tonight. That's where many of us are tonight. We believe God has the power, but we question his timing. God, it's been 2 years. It's been 2 years. God, it's been 3 years. And here's the crazy part about it, Deacon LaCour, is we shout about the man that was at the pool for 38 long years. We shout about the woman with the issue of blood for 12 years. We shout about Jairus. We shout about Lazarus. We shout about all them other stories that took time, but don't take that time on mine though. I like them cute little stories about 38 years, 12 years in the Bible, but I need you to do like that deacon at church. I need mine right now. I need my breakthrough right now. But what happens? What happens? Can you keep believing through the delays? All right? That's the question I want to ask tonight. Can you keep believing through the delays? Here's the first thing you got to understand. The delay was not designed to destroy Jairus' faith. The delay was developing a deeper dimension of his faith. Because his faith was one that says, hey, if you come to my house and lay hands on my daughter, I believe she'll get up. That's the kind of faith he had. Do you remember that centurion? That centurion said, you ain't even got to come to the house. you ain't even got to come to the house. You can stand right here and speak a word and my daughter will be healed. That's another dimension of faith. There's another dimension that, hey, man, I know she dead, but you can still raise her up. There's another dimension of faith. So here's the question. What dimension of faith do you have? I saw somebody put it in the chat. Maybe you still got mustard seed faith. And that's enough to get started. That's enough to move a mountain. All right? So here's the question. Is God developing your faith to take you to a deeper dimension in your faith? So how do I do that, Pastor? How do I do that? Two things I want to drive home in this first principle. During the delay, Jairus had to do two things. He had to keep waiting and keep watching. All right? So in order to keep believing through the delays, he had to keep waiting and keep watching. As Ms. Wilma said, it's hard when there's these delays. It's hard when there's these delays. All right. So what do I do, Pastor, when there's a delay? Number one, he says, keep waiting. Really? Watch this. Waiting is one of the most difficult disciplines of faith because waiting places us in the uncomfortable space between what Jesus promised and what Jesus has performed. So somebody knows what it's like to be in that position where you're in that uncomfortable space between what he said and what he's done. I know I heard him say it, but I hadn't seen it yet. So I'm in that space. He's between believing and receiving. I believe he can do it, but I just hadn't received it yet. And when God makes you wait, he's not wasting your time. He's working beyond what you can see. And this is why I keep telling people all the time, one of the reasons why I'm so comfortable as a pastor is because in those years of waiting, I began to see God work beyond where I was. Now that I'm at Mount Olive, I saw God working some things before I even got there. Now that I look back at it, it wasn't wasted time. God was working beyond what I could see. All right. So now when I arrive, I walk into my breakthrough. All right. And so people look at it as like, man, you lucky. No, I waited. And most people don't see your waiting time. They just see your receiving time. And so they're mad at what you receive, but don't understand the weight that was involved. And I'm not talking about just the WAIT, I'm talking about the WEIGHT. Because while you're waiting, there's a weight that comes with it. Oh, I wish I had somebody who could testify that while you're waiting, there's a burden that's on your back because you want to give up. You want to throw in the towel, but you got to keep waiting. Why? Because the word says if you wait on the Lord and be of good courage, watch this, he's going to strengthen your heart. I don't want you to strengthen my heart. I want you to give me the answer. I want you to give me the breakthrough. But no, he said, no. I need you to strengthen your heart so that when you finally get it, they can't come and break your heart. And so many of you got what you asked for, but he hadn't strengthened your heart. So now you got what you wanted and your heart's broken. Oh, Lord have mercy. Isaiah 40:31. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. You got what you wanted because you didn't want to wait, but now you got what you wanted and you're weak and you can't really handle the blessing that he gave you. If you just learn how to wait on him, he'll be working while you're waiting. Watch what it said. While you're waiting, he's strengthening your heart. While you're waiting, he's renewing your strength. Waiting on God does not mean doing nothing. Here's what it means. It means refusing to leave the place of faith while God is working. To wait means I do not walk away because it's taking longer than I expected. Somebody can testify you walked away from a few blessings because God was taking too long. That was your idea that they're enjoying right now. That was
She said,
successful now. All right. So watch this. To wait means I do not walk away because it's taking longer than I expected. I do not abandon my confidence because God has not moved on my timeline. I do not interpret God's silence as absence. And here's what happens to a lot of us believers. God didn't say nothing. Well, he must don't want me to have it. Well, it must not be my time yet. It must not be my season. We interpret God's silence as his absence, or we interpret God's silence as a no. Jairus had to keep standing there while Jesus spoke to this woman. When was the last time you sat there and waited while God was blessing somebody else? When was the last time you sat there and watched other people's church grow while it seemed like people was leaving ours? And so what you have to do, you just have to keep standing there while he's working with somebody else. All right? So a keeper understands this. I may not like the wait, but I will not leave until I receive what I came for. Whew, Lord have mercy. Somebody knows what it's like. Somebody knows what it's like. You've been waiting on God to give you a breakthrough, and you don't like where you are. You don't like the wait, but you made up your mind, I'm not leaving until I receive what I came for. All right? So you gotta keep waiting. Let me do one more, and then we're gonna pause. The delay was not designed to destroy Jairus' faith. The delay was designed to develop a deeper dimension of his faith. So not only he had to keep waiting, but here's my shout. He had to keep watching. He had to keep watching. He had to keep watching. While Jairus was waiting, he was also watching. While he was waiting, he was also watching. What does that mean? He watched a woman who had suffered for 12 years receive her healing. All right? He had to watch. He had to watch someone else get a break. Jesus made him stand there and watch. Sometimes, God lets you see what he's done for somebody else so that you will have strength to keep believing for yourself. And I know we don't like that kind of teaching. We want hours right now. But sometimes if you just see them bless somebody else, if you see somebody else receive their breakthrough, and watch this, it would have been easy for Jairus to become frustrated while watching someone else receive what he desperately needed. The woman's miracle could have looked like an interruption, but it was also evidence. I shared with this on Sunday. Jesus allowed Jairus to witness a miracle while he was waiting on his own. You ever been in a restaurant? You ever been in a restaurant and you waiting on yours, and you done ran out of bread, you done ran out of biscuits, and you waiting on your stuff to come, and you see him come out the kitchen. He's got that platter on his hand, and he's coming towards your table. He's coming towards your table, and you start moving stuff out the way, and he walk right past you and go to another table. All right. How frustrated did you become? How frustrated did you become when they walk right past your table? But here's what this text is teaching. At least they're still cooking. At least there's still food in the house. And so you got to understand, just like Jairus, you got to keep watching other people get blessed, because their blessing is evidence that Jesus is still working. I wish I had somebody who can testify, Pastor, I'm not a hater. I get excited when I see other people working. I get excited when I see other people getting blessed, because that lets me know that Jesus is still in the blessing business. Their healing is proof that he's still able. And even though he's not doing it for me, that's just a fresh reminder that he's able. All right. What God does for someone else while you're waiting should strengthen your expectation, not weaken your faith. Here it is. Do not become discouraged by another person's blessing. You got to be able to shout for them. Baby, I'm glad you're getting your blessing. I'm glad you're getting your breakthrough. I'm glad you're getting your healing. I'm glad you're getting your resources, because that lets me know that there's more proof, there's more evidence that God is still in the blessing business. And so here's the challenge. While you're sitting there waiting, while you're sitting there waiting on somebody else to get their breakthrough, while you're sitting there waiting on God to get to your house, watch it. Watch what he's doing in somebody else's life. Celebrate it. Celebrate when he's blessing somebody else. Watch this. Learn from it. That woman had to get down on her knees. She had to press her way through the crowd. You ought to be able to learn from other people's breakthrough. All right. Let it remind you that God is still in the miracle working business. So you got to keep believing. You got to keep believing through the delays. All right. Keep believing through the delays. So here's my question. Here's my question to the class tonight. What's the hardest part about waiting on God to answer your prayer? What's the hardest part about watching somebody else get blessed? Let's talk about it. Take your spiritual hat off for a minute, because I know it's coming. But Pastor, it's not hard at all. It's not. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Especially when he blesses people that you know don't come to church. You know they don't serve God. You know they don't give to God. You know they don't tithe. You know they don't help nobody else. And it seems like they keep getting blessing after blessing after blessing after blessing. Ooh, Lord. There it is right there. As Mr. Toller said a while ago, you start to feel like you're not worthy. Maybe they deserved it more than you do. All right. So let's talk about it for a minute. What's the hardest part about waiting and watching other people getting blessed while you're waiting on yours? Let's go to the next one. All right. Let's see if we can get through these last two. All right. So you got to keep believing through the delays. All right. Keep believing through the delays. While you're being delayed, while it seems like God is taking his time, when it seems like God is not moving, you got to keep watching and keep waiting. But here's the next one. You got to keep believing through the difficult seasons. All right. While he was still speaking to her, messengers arrived from the house of Jairus, the leader of the synagogue. They told him, your daughter's dead. There's no use troubling the teacher now. But Jesus overheard them and said to Jairus, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. Just have faith. One translation says, keep on believing. All right. There will be times when the report does not match your expected conclusion. All right. There's going to be some times where you got it in your head. You done played it out in your head. This is how it's going to turn out. This is how it's going to happen. This is how it's going to happen. I'm going to do this. 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 And there are going to be times where there's something that comes up. There's a report that comes up. There's a circumstance that comes up, and it don't match your expected conclusion. All right. There will be times when the report does not match a conclusion. You prayed for healing, but the condition became worse. You expected the door to open, but it closed. You believed things would improve, but the situation became more difficult. And here's what Jairus is probably thinking. Man, if we'd have just kept on walking, if you wouldn't have stopped and started messing with this lady, I could have got my breakthrough. You was expecting him to get there on time. You was expecting the healing. You was expecting that if I come to Jesus, we're gonna have a straight shot back to the house. You believed things would improve once Jesus got there. But at this moment, in this season, it's done got worse. Have you ever been there? Have you ever been there where you had it in your mind what was going to happen? You had played it out in your mind and the condition changed. But here's the shout, but Jesus did not. The condition changed. The condition changed. The report changed. But Jesus stayed the same. The situation became difficult, but Jesus was still present and still powerful. Oh, that's shout news for me right there, because every day, it seemed like the condition in this country, the condition and situations are getting worse and worse and worse. And Jesus said, I'm still the same. I am the Lord. I do not change. I'm still present. I'm still powerful. This was difficult, but here's the shout. It was only a test. Because here's the thing. If I told you I was coming to heal, my word ought to be the final word. And some of you have walked away from your blessing. You've walked away from your breakthrough simply because you allowed somebody else's word to be louder than God's word. So how do I handle that, Pastor? How do I handle those difficult seasons? How do I handle those difficult situations when the condition change? Here it is. Keep trusting. Keep trusting. Your daughter's dead. Don't keep troubling the teacher now. Here's what Jesus tells him. Don't be afraid. Just have faith. Keep trusting. Keep trusting. And here's what I like about this. Jesus did not deny the difficulty of the situation. The report was real, but it was not final. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Here's what I like about it. Jesus didn't say, get on away from here with all that. Get on away from here. Don't be coming with all that negative. No, he didn't do that. He allowed their word to sit right here. And then what did he do? He gave him another word. How do I handle all this noise that's on CNN and on Fox and with all these negative? How do I handle that? Jesus will always have another word. And he did not stop them from talking. He just gave him another word. He said, don't be afraid. Just have faith. Don't be afraid. Keep on believing. Watch this. He challenged Jairus not to allow the report to change what he believed about him. And that's my word for somebody here tonight. Don't allow what you hear or what you see to change what you believed about him last week. If you believed he was able last month, last year, he's still able. If you believed that he could do it last year, he's still able. If you believe he can get you a bicycle, he can get you a car. If you believe he can pay a note, he can pay it off. If you believed back then, what made you stop believing? What made you stop trusting? Whatever made you stop trusting, you have given it the final word. Oh, Lord, have mercy. Lord have mercy. So here it is. Difficult situations test whether our trust is based on what we see or on who God is. And the reason why so many people, their faith waffles is because your faith is based on what you see. If you see the economy is good, if you see he's blessing it, if you see this is happening. No, you got to put your hope, put your trust, put your belief in who God is. All right. So here's the question. Can you trust God when the outcome is different from what you expected? That's the question that we got to answer tonight. Can you trust God? Can you keep trusting God when the outcome is different from what you expected? Can you trust Him when you do not understand the delay? And listen to what Jesus says. Jesus says, do not fear, just have faith. Why did He say do not fear? Because fear will make you think it's over. Fear will make you think it's impossible. So Jesus says, you came to me with faith. Do not be afraid. Keep having faith. Keep trusting. Keep believing. Fear says it's over. And I like what Psalm 56 verse 3 says. Whenever I'm afraid, I will trust in you. Lord have mercy. Whenever I'm afraid, I will trust in you. So watch this. When fear shows up next week, when fear shows up tomorrow, it's a sign that you have not put your trust where it needs to be. And that's why I said it's only a test. It's only a test. When you begin to be fearful about how you're going to pay your bills, when you begin to be fearful that it's not going to turn out like you thought, that's a sign that you've stopped trusting in the God you once believed. Teach, Pastor. So you got to understand. You got to keep believing through difficult seasons. How do I do it? By keep trusting. By keep trusting. All right? So not only that, notice what they said. They said, don't trouble the teacher no more. She dead. She's gone. Don't trouble the teacher no more. Here's what they were saying. They were telling Jairus there was no reason to continue. They're saying to him, you can stop walking with him now. You can stop expecting him to do it now. You can stop believing him now. You can stop trusting him now. But watch what Jairus does. Once Jesus says, don't be afraid, just have faith, what did he do? Jairus kept walking with Jesus. That's somebody's word tonight. Pastor, I was about to give up. I was about to stop walking by faith. But after this lesson tonight, my final word to you is just keep walking. Keep walking. You started walking with him. You started walking towards your breakthrough. My word for you tonight is keep on trusting and keep on walking. Why is that important? Because 2 Corinthians 5:7 says we walk by faith, not by sight. He did not know what Jesus was going to do. He did not understand how Jesus would handle the simple situation. He simply continued on the journey. He simply kept walking by faith. And that's where you are tonight. Pastor, I don't know how this is going to turn out. I don't know how I'm going to come out of this. I don't know how the job situation is going to turn out. I don't know how this relationship thing is going to turn out. I'm just going to keep walking by faith. And sometimes faith is not having all the answers. So you want to walk with him with the answers. Sometimes faith is taking the next step with Jesus. Sometimes faith is just putting one foot in front of the other. I don't know where we're going, Jesus, but I'm walking with you. I don't know how it's going to turn out, but I'm trusting as I walk. You may not understand what God is doing, but keep walking. You may not know how it's going to turn out, but keep walking. You may not see any evidence of change, but keep walking. And somebody said, Pastor, that's so difficult, and you just got to have faith. You got to have faith to keep walking, knowing that God has the last word. All right? So Jairus expected Jesus to heal a sick girl, but Jesus is preparing to raise a dead girl. Here it is. Here's my shout. What appeared to be the end was only an opportunity for Jesus to reveal a greater dimension of his power. Your prayer was, Lord, just give me enough faith. Lord, give me enough faith to get this note paid this month. Lord, give me enough faith to make this house payment. God says, I was preparing for a blessing to pay it off. I was preparing for a breakthrough to come next month that was going to pay it off. And so what I'm doing, I'm going to put you in this difficult situation, but it's really an opportunity to reveal a greater dimension of my power. So you keep shouting off the crumbs off the table, and I want to get you to the place where you experience a greater dimension of God's power. And so this is where God has some of you. You're crying and complaining about how bad it is, and God is saying, if you just stay with me, if you just keep walking with me, it's getting ready. You're getting ready to see a greater dimension of his power. So through difficult situations, keep trusting when you don't understand. Keep walking when you do not see the outcome. Last one. Keep believing. Keep believing despite the doubters. You got to keep believing through the delays. You got to keep believing through difficult seasons. And the last one, you got to keep believing despite the doubters. When you're waiting on God to do something major in your life, there's always going to be some people who tell you, well, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I don't know. You got that radical faith. That's what they call it. Y'all got that radical faith. All right? You got to learn how to keep believing despite the doubters. Notice what the text says. And we're going to close with this. Verse 38. When they came to the home of the synagogue leader, Jesus saw much commotion and weeping and wailing. He went inside and asked, why all this commotion and weeping? The child isn't dead. She's only asleep. The crowd laughed at him, but he made them all leave, and he took the girl's father and mother and his 3 disciples into the room where the girl was lying. I like that because the miracles that was about to happen in the house, but everybody in the house could not remain in the room. Lord have mercy. The miracle is about to happen in the house, but everybody in the house could not remain in the room. And this is what God is saying to somebody tonight. I want to do something. I want to do something in your life, but there's some people in the space that's bringing negativity. They're bringing doubt. They're bringing pessimism into the situation. I need to clear your space before I give you your breakthrough. There are some seasons, hear me well, class, tonight. There are some seasons in which Jesus will change the atmosphere before he changes the situation. So somebody knows what I'm talking about. You've been praying for God to fix it, and God says, no, let me change the atmosphere. Let remove some components. Let remove some things that's keeping you from what I really want to do in your life. And so he has to change the atmosphere. He puts some people out before he heals his daughter. And you are one person removed from your atmosphere from getting what God has for you. And I know, Pastor, that's mean. I've been knowing them all my life. And maybe that's why you're stuck in this dimension. Not everybody can accompany you into the place where your faith is being tested. Some people know too much about what happened and too little about who Jesus is. Woo, Lord have mercy. They can tell you all this other stuff, but they can't tell you what the word says. They know the diagnosis, they know the history, they know the mistakes, they know the statistics, they know what's not going to work, but they do not know what Jesus is preparing to do for you. And you got too many people in your life that privately they're talking about you and they're not praying with you. Privately, they're sharing all your mistakes, but they're not lifting you up in prayer. And Jesus is saying to us, if you're going to keep believing, you're going to have to separate yourself from doubters who don't believe the word of God. Do not allow the laughter of doubters to become louder than the word of Jesus. Lord have mercy. Do not allow the laughter of doubters to become louder than the word of Jesus. I'm very observant. I'm very observant, and I talk to a lot of people about several things just to pick their brain on some things. And I can tell who my faith crowd is, and I can tell who my statistics and my history class is. I can tell who knows everybody's mistakes. They know the diagnosis of everybody's downfall. They know all that stuff, but they can't tell me that He's able to keep us from falling. They can't tell me that He's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all we can ask or think. So you can't allow the laughter of the doubters to become louder than the word of Jesus. And here's what He's saying. Here's what He's saying. Here's what He's saying. The final word. You may have to remove some voices. You may have to limit some conversations. Not everybody can handle your vision. Not everybody can handle your breakthrough. Here it is. You may have to stop explaining your faith to people who have already decided that nothing's going to change. Okay. Okay. You quit explaining your faith to people who don't have faith themselves. All right? You gotta quit explaining to people what God, because God can't be explained. He can only be experienced. And so you'll never experience if you got doubters all around you. So sometimes in some seasons, you got to remove some voices. You got to limit some conversations. Not everybody needs to know what God is getting ready to do in your life. All right? Here's the last word. Here's the last word. You don't need everybody to believe. I need you to be in prayer for me. I need you to believe with me. I need you to be on one accord with me. No, you don't. You don't need everybody to be believing with you. All right? You don't need everybody to believe. You just need to keep believing. You just need to keep trusting. You just need to keep walking, keep waiting, and keep watching. And here's my shout. In due season, God will perform what He promised. I believe I got one or two witnesses who can testify tonight. Pastor, I went through my waiting season. I went through my watching season. I watched everybody else get blessed. I watched everybody else get their breakthrough. I kept walking. I kept trusting. And I can testify in due season, God came through with what He promised. And this is not for everybody. This is not for everybody, because people are saying, well, Pastor, that's that old faith talk. Y'all church folk get on my nerve with all that faith talk. But here's what I know. If God said it, He's going to do it. If God said it, He's going to do it. And in due season, God will perform what He promised. Oh Lord, I'm about to shout. I'm about to shout over the rest of this series. You got to keep believing. You got to keep believing. I know you came to Jesus as you was. You were weary. I know you came to Jesus. I know that. But here's the shout. Can you keep believing? Can you keep believing that He's able to perform what He promised? All right. So here's the thing. You got to keep believing through the delays. God's timetable is not your timetable. So, Pastor, what do I do while the delay is happening? Keep waiting and keep watching. All right? You got to keep believing through difficult seasons. God's not going to let you just walk directly to your breakthrough. There's going to be some difficult seasons. You got to keep trusting and keep walking by faith. And then keep believing despite the doubters. Keep believing despite the doubters. Let's do this. Let's do this before we run through the announcements. Let's do this real quick. Give me 60 seconds. Give me 60 seconds out of these three. Keep believing through the delays. Keep believing through difficult seasons. Keep believing despite the doubters. Give me 60 seconds of what jumped out at you the most in this first part of this series.